Welcome to the O Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How you doing, Dan?
Doing good, man. Saturday, January 16th. We're recording on the weekends here.
Yeah, it's unusual, but we were lucky. We've got a guest today.
Yep.
So we're not going to waste any time.
Yeah, we're going to get right into it. So we had the pleasure of interviewing Johnny Derango, who is a well-accomplished cinematographer, director of photography, among, as you'll come to learn, wearing so many other hats.
Grip,
that's right. Doing what it takes.
Can you imagine him and Eshom Nelms were Grip on the TV show? That's funny.
From humble beginnings.
Yep.
But so, you know, we did an episode on Fatman, and his work on that film is remarkable. But also he's got this brand new series on Hulu, Everyone is Doing Great, with James Lafferty and Stephen Colletti. And it's fantastic. And, you know, we've already binged the first season, so we're hungry for that second one. So if you don't have Hulu already, make sure that you sign up and check that series out. It's really entertaining.
Very funny.
Yeah. All right. Enjoy this interview with Johnny Derango.
Hope everyone's doing great. We'll see you next time. Hey, Johnny.
Hello.
Hey.
How you doing?
Morning, Johnny. How you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Does the video look okay, man? I'm in a pretty dark little hotel room here. I got myself a little key light going, but beyond that,
It looks good. It's so funny you say, because I was gonna say to you, don't judge our production value too harshly.
no, it looks good.
So what are you doing on the East Coast? You said you were shooting on the East Coast right now?
Some little commercials. So there's an ad agency that I've worked with since about 2004.
Yeah.
And he just had a couple little commercials. And strangely enough, he's one of the executive producers on Everyone is Doing Great as well.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And of course we want to dive into that. Mike and I have been binging the episodes of Everyone is Doing Great. Was the original title for that Everyone is Super Gorgeous? Was that Everyone is Handsome?
Yeah, right.
Lafferty.
Disgusting.
Lafferty's like laying there with potato chips on him, you know, and he still looks great.
Right. It's ridiculous. those two guys. It's hard to be around on set there.
You know, I really enjoying it, and like kind of almost through the 8 episodes. We were just talking before you joined us. Is there an intention that this will continue on for season 2? Or
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sweet.
We haven't been greenlit yet, but yeah, the intention, every one of us would like to make a second season.
Nice.
Yeah.
And did you guys, was the deal you made a couple of episodes to sell it to Hulu? Like you showed them a couple of episodes?
So the way it
How
worked
did
is
that work out?
we shot the pilot back in 2017. James had actually come to the Nelms brothers to ask them if they'd come on as executive producers and do the show. And they in turn said, hey, you should bring Johnny on as an executive producer as well and have him shoot it too. So we did that. We shot the pilot episode in 2017 and it went really, really well. And then we took that out and started sort of showing that around, seeing if somebody would finance the whole first season.
Right.
And it wasn't going as quickly as we would have hoped. So James and Steven said, screw it. We're just going to go to Indiegogo, you know, and reach out to the people who want to see something we want to make.
Right.
And we did. We made a pilot. Well, James put the pilot together. Sorry. The pilot we shot independently. And then when we weren't getting the traction as fast as we wanted to get the next 7 episodes up, that's when they went to Indiegogo and appealed to their fans and got a significant portion of the budget.
Good. So that explains what we were talking about last night about when was it shot, because you can tell like there's no masks on people and stuff. And we're like, well, how did they shoot this with the pandemic going? So that answers that question.
Yeah. So pilot was sometime in 2017. And then the next 7 episodes were the end of 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really funny stuff.
Thank you.
Really good stuff.
You know, it is. What I love about it, and I find that it's similar to a lot of the Nelms features, is there's, you know, just these outrageous scenes that are just so over the top and just crazy. But then all of a sudden, this unexpected tender moment sneaks in that you don't expect. You know, that seems like to be a common theme. Those
guys are running some parallels there for sure. I think both sets of directors like finding the absurdity that happens in real life. Because if you watch, the show is really grounded, but then, you know, it's the crazy real life moments that we're all like, yeah, stuff that happens to you every day, and you're like, oh, that would be great. I should put that in a movie or write that down, put it in a book, and that's what we, you know.
Are they doing any improv while they do it?
I believe some stuff was improv in there.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, it's so natural. It just, my favorite shot so far is in episode 5 when James has the hibiscus, right?
Oh, the succulent.
The succulent. I knew it was some funky name. It was just funny. And it stays like in the season, but he's in the grocery store and he's high. And at one point, the camera's just following the supplicant around the store.
In the cart? Yeah.
That's a fantastic shot.
That was one of those things where we got into a location and they were being a little more difficult than we anticipated. And so we were just rush trying to get shot out. So there was a point at which I was like, dude, you're high. It would be awesome if I just jumped in this grocery cart and just pointed the camera at you and you just wheeled me around the store. So we did a little bit of that, and then we put the succulent in. And if you look even in the coloring on that episode, I ended up color grading the whole first season for some strange reason, probably budget. But that was one where I took the color and really pushed the color to sort of make it a little more. Yeah,
you can tell it stands out. And then of course we got your scene in episode 6,
right? the toque scene.
Yeah, okay. Talk about ad lib. That was my one line of ad lib. They couldn't even put me in for one line without me trying to ad lib. So.
Yeah, I think you almost had a little giggle going as you were walking away, like, "Hey, nice toque."
You know,
and I had, the best part was we had just come back. We had scouted Fatman in January of 2019. So we had actually shot the 7 episodes, taken a break, and had to come back and shoot the Redwood portion of it up where Stephen and James go into the Redwoods. And so Ian and Eshom and I had already been up to, we were looking in Manitoba at that time. So we'd gone up to Manitoba on a scout, and everybody referred to the beanie as a toque. And I was like, that's great. So when I did the line, I leaned in, I was like, nice toque. Nobody knew what I was talking about, which was awesome. So after we had explained, and then in full circle, the guys, when they went into Canada to get their work visa to go across the border, they were getting a lot, the agents were being really difficult with them. But the best part of this entire thing was right when they finished, the guy looked at Eshom and was like, nice toque, and turned and walked away. And they're like, man, Johnny really summoned something when he did his park ranger bit.
Funny. Yeah, it's a very Canadian phrase, you know, because a lot of hockey players wear those. But yeah.
Are you a Blackhawks fan, Johnny?
I am a Blackhawks fan. Man, you've done a little bit of research here.
Yeah. Well, I was curious of what you were thinking about, you know, hockey being back, and you know, do you tend to follow them pretty religiously? Or
I don't follow as closely as I used to, but last year I did get to hit a Senators game. I think the Senators and maybe the Maple Leafs were playing when I was up there.
Nice.
Yeah, because it's so weird. Well, they're traveling now, not as much. Like they're doing a lot of back-to-backs and stuff. But
yeah, the whole thing is strange.
We're from Boston, so
okay.
You know, we're Bruins fans, and
there's a good rivalry there. Blackhawks, Bruins. Yeah. You know, it's funny. We were talking about your scene in that episode, and you know, you got a couple of acting credits on your IMDb. So this is one of the things we wanted to ask about off the top is kind of a jack of all trades. I mean, it's, you know, I think the question is what don't you do on Everyone Is Doing Great, first of all, but also we wanted to kind of learn a little bit more about just sort of how you, like, what was your journey into filmmaking? How did it all come to be?
Yeah, I can take you back to the very beginning. So when I was in high school, I was a huge just movie fan. I loved movies, and I loved like dramatic TV shows. Like Homicide: Life on the Street was my favorite TV show I've ever seen. And I would go to movies. It was my escape. You know, my dad is a really hard worker, and everything was always about hard work, and it was just like there was no time to ever screw around. So my escape is I'd sneak off and I'd go to the video store and I'd grab a couple movies. I'd find something that was shown at Sundance or South by Southwest, something that I'd really never heard of, just take it back and just like devour it. So I was really into watching movies. It was sort of my escape. And in the process, I don't know, maybe I watched a few too many action movies, but I thought that I wanted to be a homicide detective. And so when my parents were asking me, you know, you're going to go to college next year, what do you want to do? I was like, oh, I think I'm going to go into law enforcement. And they're like, they're like, is there anything else that you'd want to do? Because I think they were starting to fear for my safety. And I don't know why I brought it up, but I was like, yeah, I'd love to make movies. But I lived in a town of 10,000 people in the middle of Illinois. I was like, who makes movies? Like, it's just not something you do. And to their credit, they're like, why don't you explore that? Take a look and see if it's something you can make a living at. So I did. I looked into it, and then I ended up going to Columbia College in Chicago, and I realized that maybe I just wanted to make action movies, not be an action star. So that was the path, and I went there to be a director. But in my first class, I met this man by the name of Ron Pitts. He was Chicago's first Black filmmaker. He was there at the Democratic National Conventions, the riots in '68. He was there when Malcolm X was assassinated. He was on the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama. Like, in the museum there's a picture of a tear gas canister exploding in front of him while he's filming a Bolex on the bridge. Wow. So this guy became my mentor. Like, he taught me how to shoot. It became storytelling from behind the camera instead of working with the actors, which I had never realized before, how powerful the visuals are and how you can shape things just by where you put the camera, how you light things, how the camera moves. And I fell in love with it. And I said to myself, if I'm going to leave school, it's better if I can have a skill that I've learned rather, you know, being a director, like you can't really show a whole lot. You can't tell, you can say, hey, I'm a director, but unless you have a lot of work, people aren't going to even take a look at it. If I can learn to shoot when I leave school, I can go get a job. You know, I can at least use my skills to do something to make sure I'm not living on the street till I do whatever I eventually want to do. But I fell in love with shooting, and that's what I decided I wanted to do for my career. So I've been shooting for almost 20 years now.
Yeah. And you have a lot of short films, so I imagine you use those to get the next one. And
very, very intentionally, because when I came out, I didn't want to be somebody who, I would go to IMDb's and look at different DPs and their work and stuff. And sometimes you'd see 50 movies, but you'd never heard of them. They looked low budget. There was no cast, you know, it was, and I say this and I feel terrible, but everything was like Eric Roberts or Jeff Fahey. And I didn't want that to be my resume. And I apologize in advance in case I ever work with Eric Roberts.
Isn't that Lawnmower Man? Is that Jeff Fahey?
Jeff Fahey's Lawnmower Man. I would look at credits, and those were the guys you would see just over and over again, you know, and eventually it became like the Tom Sizemores and those guys.
Right.
And, but I didn't want to have that career. So I was very particular about the features I would take. It had to be just an incredible script, a cast that you know and people recognize, or a director or directors that I really, really, truly wanted to work with. So I took all kinds of short form content. When I first moved out to LA, I called myself a DP, and I was 22 years old. You know, wasn't the easiest thing to do, but in between shooting short films or commercials or little projects like that I would get, I would try to PA on bigger stuff that was outside of town, usually commercials, because I didn't want anybody to know me. I didn't want anybody in town to know me as anything other than a DP. That's sort of the track that I took, which is, it's interesting because you can go both ways. You can become a camera assistant, and in the same time that I've been doing it, work your way up, you know, go to camera assistant, go to focus puller, then operator, and then eventually you get moved up to DP. So there's no right or wrong way, but for me, it was, I wanted to shoot as much as I could, learn the lessons on my own, and just apply it as I move forward.
Is that the work ethic of your dad creeping in there for sure?
Yeah, I think for sure.
Yeah.
And now you've got this clan, you know, I don't know what else to say, but you know, this group of guys and girls, and you know, like Michelle was in the first episode when Seth is like humping a pillow or something, having sex with the pillow, and she's like a casting director talking, you know, hey, what do we get for lunch? As he's doing it with a pillow.
It's amazing. That group is such a wonderful group too. And I can tell you guys how we all came together.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I randomly, I still remembered, I got a call. I was back in Illinois visiting my parents, and I get a call from somebody, and they said, hey, can you come in and take over camera for me for a couple of days on this History Channel show? I think it was something like the Kings of Babylon. It was like a special. But I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take the job, because I was young and I was hungry, and I think they were shooting on DBX 100s, and I owned a DBX 100, so I'm like, this is great. So I go out, and I'm somewhere in the middle of the desert in California, and we're shooting these reenactments with like chariots and spears, and like I can't even remember what it was like. I was trying to visualize this morning when I was thinking about doing this interview, and it's a blur. But I did this job and I came on and I think I was just a camera operator, but there seemed to be no DP. Like nobody seemed to be calling the shot. So I just sort of took over. Like I said, I was 22 years old.
Wow.
And so the other camera guy who was on the show while I was there noticed. And so he referred me for a job like a week later. And it wasn't a glamorous job. It was a building safety video downtown Los Angeles, but it was work.
Right.
So because he was impressed with me on that job, I got the job on the building safety video. And sure enough, my only grip on the job was Eshom Nelms.
Ah,
wow.
So completely by chance. Yeah, it was a director, 2 grips, and myself. And we'd do the whole day worth of shooting for buildings like downtown Los Angeles or all around California. And then he'd cut them together. It was ridiculous stuff. Like we'd go upstairs to the highest thing and you'd put like a light and you'd have a couple gels that you would shake to look like fire. And then down at the bottom, you'd take a blue light and put it there so everybody would know where to clear the building. So that's what Esh and I did. And we became friends on that and stayed in touch.
Now, this is what year?
This is probably about 2003 or 2004.
Okay.
Wow. It was quite some time ago.
Well, it was interesting. They talked about how their skills that they acquired, a lot of it inherited from their parents, and it sort of coalesced into
his dad was a photographer.
Right. And then, you know, I mean, I didn't know, like, Esh's even got this side hustle slinging coke, apparently, which
we had to get that up.
The best part is he was a career storyboard artist before he was a director.
Yeah.
And so I like to think of him taking the storyboards for a director and wrapping them around the coke and delivering it.
So how you talk about this interest in law enforcement, so working on small town crime must have been.
Yeah, I've got that up here. If you
that's right.
I don't know if you can see this too. It was my last clean shirt.
Oh, that's so nice.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
and we caught a scene and with Lafferty wearing the Lost on Purpose T-shirt.
Yeah.
And the poster, small town crime poster, was in there.
Little sprinklers.
Catch all these little things. Yeah.
It's amazing. Your guys' attention to detail is fantastic.
Oh, it's so great. So you talk a little bit about the experience on Fatman, because you know we obviously we talked to those guys about it and loved that film.
Yeah,
super surprised by what we saw.
Nice.
And been promoting the heck out of that. But what was your experience on that film?
I mean, that's an amazing project. Like they told you, that project was gestating for like 14 years. And so I'd read multiple incarnations along the way. And my joke to them, and I think I told them a couple of times, maybe not as many as I should have because I thought it was funny, but I told them it was the long con. I was working with them until the point where we got to do Fatman and then I was done. Because I love that script and I thought it would be a nice like high note to go out on. But,
good night, everyone.
Yeah. So that project, like I said, it was amazing because it was around for a while. They had a couple start stops. We went up to Manitoba a year prior to us shooting. We scouted there. The movie was delayed a bit, and then we ended up going a year later. So even within that 14-year window, there was like, we're gonna do it. We're there. We're checking out a location, and then it's like, all right, we're gonna hit the pause button for a year. We'll, we get this taken care of, and we get back up. So,
I'm curious coming up on award season, like. I can't think of a more original script than that.
Yeah.
And I hope it gets some attention. I mean, like last year's winner was Parasite.
Right.
And there's some similarities in the fact that it's so shocking what happens next. You think you're going one way and all of a sudden you're just shocked into another scenario. But
right.
Like I said, we really, and I listened to the commentary on it because I got a copy of the Blu-ray out of Redbox.
Oh, nice.
It's coming out
I believe
next week.
Right?
26th, yeah.
26th.
26th.
So I don't think Dan's heard the commentary.
Not yet. I went to try to get it at Redbox and it was out of stock, which was great.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. It's doing good. So it's a fantastic looking film too. I'm curious, like, how collaborative was that? Or you sort of left to your own devices at this point, especially with your relationship with them?
Yeah,
so long.
It's sort of morphed over the years because there was a short film we did together years ago called Hard to Swallow. And it was the very first thing we did together. They had done Night of the Dog and Squirrel Trap previous to that. And I'd seen their work and I was really impressed with what they did. And I was like, these are guys that I want to work with, but the stuff doesn't look that great. So that was my pitch to them. I was like, you guys are doing, you're making really great stuff. There's only one problem with it. And they're like, what's that? I was like, I'm not shooting it. So that was my pitch to them. And then we went and we shot this thing. I didn't know what to expect because I read the script. And to me, when I read it, it was very like The Office. I thought it was just going to be, I was going to have a camera on my shoulder and I was going to be doing snap zooms and like it was going to be goofy. And it's like, I don't know if this really works. And then I got up there and it was not at all what I expected. I mean, every shot was planned out. There was a storyboard for everything. There was a shot where somebody's walking across the pharmacy and they're carrying a brown like lunch bag, and we got the camera on a slider doing like the Tarantino following behind the lunch bag, and then it reveals and it was
Nice.
way more interesting than I ever anticipated it was going to be. And so I was like, all right, these guys really know what they're doing. And the funny thing is, anytime I would put a light anywhere, Eshom would challenge me. He would go like, why are you putting that there? Maybe you want to, and it was just hilarious because I had never worked with him before. And I was like, I'm going to pull my hair out by the end of this thing, but I could at least see that they had a vision. And when they cut the piece together, it was awesome. So I was like, all right, I trust these guys. And it was that experience alone and my relationship with knowing them for several years before that, where when they started to put together Lost on Purpose, I was like, all right, I'm going to help you guys put this movie together. Right. And so I came on as a producer on that one as well and raised a good portion of the budget. They raised the other half of the budget, and we went and made that film.
And they basically refer to you as their right hand. I mean,
I'm the third Nelms brother.
Right. And Lafferty's like the stepchild, I guess.
He's in there for sure.
But we were wondering how difficult it is for two voices to be communicating, never mind three. I mean, how does that work? Like on Fatman, you're directing Mel Gibson, and here's a director who's won an Academy, 2 Academy Awards, and you three guys are directing them. What's that like?
I mean, it's amazing. Those guys are just so sure of themselves and their vision and what they're doing, because you drop in an Academy Award-winning director into a movie. And I know I would have been more nervous than they were, but they know what they're doing. They come off confident. They're always a unified voice, and whatever they say, I back what they say, So we're all one strong, solid voice. And as a matter of fact, they I don't know if they told the story on your podcast already, but there was a time in which on another movie, actors want to know, if they're going to be giving conflicting information when they're working with two directors. Mm-hmm. And Ian and Eshom are really smart because they do all their fights in the writing process. So they know exactly where they are when they get to set. And it's legitimately, you could talk to one of them and get the same answer. And that's exactly what happened. One of the actors on one of the movies, I don't know if it was just a test or he was trying to, feel out what was going on, but he went to Ian and he said, hey, I have this question about this character, what should I be doing in that? And then on the sly went to Eshom and said, hey, what do you think? And got almost word for word verbatim the same answer. Wow. And after that, it was like, okay, I trust you guys,
Yeah, it's totally in sync. Yeah.
Because they are totally in sync. And it's great because we've been now working together for so long. Like I said, I think it was 2004 or so that we met, that they default to me a lot on the visuals these days. We have a chat in pre-production and we decide on the overall sort of look where we're going to go with it. They give me references. We talk, we watch a few movies, and then they really leave me to my own devices for the most part. And the only time we talk again on set is if there's something that they just don't agree with, which happens from time to time. And then we, I trust them and I go with what they say,
Yeah. It's almost like an unspoken thing, I would imagine.
It is. It's great. It's such a shorthand. I mean, if I were working with a new director that I'd never worked with, you're not going to have the same level of comfort and the same level of, just knowing their aesthetic and what they like.
Right.
Fun part is we still push each other. They always push me to up the level. And I feel like if you go back and you look at the movies, I feel like they all get better and better.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
visual side.
For sure.
You can definitely see it. The last 4 movies, we couldn't get our hands on some of the like Squirrel Trap.
Oh, sure.
And we were trying to, but the last 4 movies, I know we went through them like piece by piece with them, and they just built, and the casting, you guys had some great actors. And like Small Town Crime, we actually watched after Fatman.
So good.
But what a great movie. I mean, that one, it grabs you in the first 5 minutes
Yeah.
and doesn't let go.
Right.
Which is, a fantastic, experience for the viewer.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely different in their pacing, Fatman and Small Town Crime, but they both have that really awesome navigation of tone. Like, I feel like Ian and Eshom navigate tone more than, or better than almost anybody I've ever met. I mean, you have stuff that's in one moment just super funny, and then the next moment you turn around and somebody's super bloody and something just happened,
Yeah.
I think it's really tricky to navigate that tone. It's something I go back to. One of my personal favorite movies of all time is Payback. And I think Payback, I feel like the tone in that movie is handled so incredible. You have stuff that's just sort of like almost slapsticky, and then you have something that's super violent, and then you have something that's funny. And I just,
Now so that's Mel. That's Mel too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Mel.
That
and
so that must have been like.
But there's two very different cuts of Payback. Did you see
both
cuts?
I love them. I love them both.
Me too.
They both stand on their own as movies, And I had a nice chat with Mel about that because I love that movie. So that was just something I wanted to talk to him about,
Yeah, that was really cool because I remember there was competing formats, Blu-ray and HD DVD at the time. And I don't know why. I don't even know why they recut it. And it was dramatically different.
Yeah.
But they were both entertaining movies. They're both.
Yeah, I mean, the reason it got recut is because Brian Hegland, who directed it, left the project, and the studio and Mel put out the version that was released in theaters. And then Mel, in the awesomeness that Mel is, I guess allowed Brian to go back and recut his own version of the film. I know I kind of close him in that, because my sister-in-law worked for Mel for like 6 years. And so when they did the re-release, when they did the, I think it's called Straight Up, I think the director's cut, they did a screening at the ArcLight where, oddly enough, Eshom used to work.
That's right.
My sister-in-law took me there to see the re-release of Payback, which was awesome.
Yeah, and Ian was sweating it out at Tony Roma's at that point.
Yeah, right?
Slinging ribs.
Him and Tom Fagetti, who's also been in a ton of their stuff, who I just absolutely love. I don't know if you guys know who Tom is. Tom plays the agent in Everyone Is Doing Great.
Yes.
And then he's also one of the two guys who leaves the dairy in Lost on Purpose to go pursue music. He's the captain, or he plays the symbol.
Oh, right.
See, again, like the sprinkling in of all of these cast members. Like Mike had sent me a shot last night. Say, hey, look, it's a reunion of the Hitmen from Small Town Crime.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was great.
With what is it, Frank? Is that his name, Frank? No. Frank, right?
No,
Jeremy. Jeremy is his name.
You talking about James' character? Or?
James is Jeremy, yeah.
Yeah, James Jeremy.
Yeah, but who's the guy that played the hitman?
Well, it's Frank in Everyone Is Doing Great, I think. Isn't that his character's
name?
The
father, yeah.
The father,
yeah, but his real name is Jeremy.
Jeremy Rashford, correct.
That's it. Okay, so I knew I had the Jeremy right.
Jeremy's an amazing guy. Yeah,
he is so creepy.
I love this cast of characters that keeps like surfacing and things, because he's in Lost on Purpose. He's the music executive who comes to sign them on the dairy.
Right. That's right. Oh, and I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, you go back, you see people pop up time and time again, which is great.
Mike wanted to ask, like, and related to Lost on Purpose, because when we talked to Ian and Esh, it was, we said, how much of that is you guys? And, Ian was like, it's about 99% us. And Mike, you wanted to ask Johnny.
Yeah, like, were you, like, did somebody portray you in that group of guys? Were you one of the guys? Or
no? So that group of guys is actually, they called themselves the Six at the time. The guys who directed Night of the Dog. I think that loosely based on that group of friendship. So that predates me just a little bit. Okay. So no, I wonder now if I would get a character. Maybe we'll see if there's a Lost on Purpose too.
Yeah, that's right. And they've talked about doing another Fatman, which prequel and sequel perhaps. So that would be.
I've heard a little bit of that myself. I would definitely be down to do that.
So you're shooting this commercial. Where are you on the East Coast?
Right now I'm in Cleveland, but I've been in Baltimore in the last week, and then I was back to Cleveland. Now I'm back, then went back to Baltimore, and I'm back in Cleveland, and then I'm going down to Cincinnati and Akron, I think.
Oh, so it's a pretty intense.
Yeah, so it's an agency that I've worked with for years. Roke Trem owns it, who is also, like I said, an executive producer on Everyone Is Doing Great. Yeah, and so we're just kind of hitting up several of his clients while I'm here.
Great.
So where does Durango Pictures come into the scene?
Durango Pictures?
Because we see
that come up on everyone.
Yeah, Durango Pictures started back with Lost on Purpose. It's when I came in to produce with them and shoot with them. So if you go back and you look at Lost on Purpose, Durango Pictures is on the front of Lost on Purpose too.
Okay.
And a few other projects along the way. I'm starting to do more and more stuff, which is good.
So what else is coming up? What do you have in the works?
There's all kinds of stuff. I don't know how much of it I can talk about. I know the guys have a couple things in the works. We had started a movie that because of COVID ended up pushing indefinitely. I don't know if they talked about that.
Well, they reference like sci-fi and Western, different things they were working on.
They have all kinds of stuff going on themselves. And, you know, I hear about it when it gets more real. And so there's a couple of things that sound on their end like they're moving forward. There's a very high profile director who has come to me to talk to me about a project that hopefully happens this year. I can't talk about that one quite yet. And there's hopefully a season 2 of Everyone Is Doing Great. That I would love to do, because that one, listen, I love every project I do, and I always have an incredible time with the Nelms brothers. But having the Nelms brothers and James and Stephen and Michelle and Noah and Stuart and everybody, just Alex, everybody there on that set, it's just like hanging out with your friends. Like, I've never been in an environment. I even saw one of the crew members wrote one of the producers a letter the other day saying that they've been on a bunch of sets since, and it was just such a different feel being on the set of Everyone Is Doing Great, because it's friends making something that we all really believed in. And I would love to do, 10 seasons of that show.
It's so good. I mean, it seems like that could be an easy thing to happen. I mean,
that's what we're all hoping for.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Knock on wood.
Now, how is COVID affecting your life? Because, that's going at so many things. Like last year was a rough year for releases and movie studios, movie theaters. I mean, how's that coming into play with your work?
It's really strange. It was a really strange year for me, because I started from December through mid-March. I was on Fatman, and it was awesome. I was clipping right along. I was working. And then we wrapped on March 14th. March 14th. I flew out from Canada back to LA on the 16th. And on the 18th, they closed the US-Canada border.
Wow.
Which was crazy. So we were just under the gun. It was amazing. When you're in that bubble shooting, you're not paying attention to anything other than the movie. Like, it's get up, go shoot, come home, do whatever prep you need for the next day, go to sleep, get up, it's like an unending cycle. So I heard a little bit about this virus that was going on. And then I heard stuff about Italy getting bad. And then like the last couple of days of the last week, I remember somebody was like, it's Apocalypse Day. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I went and I looked, and, it was really getting ugly out there. So we were blessed beyond belief to finish when we did, which also allowed them the window to take it into the edit and focus on nothing but the edit, So it worked out well on that front. And I'm never going to say a pandemic where thousands of people are dying.
Right.
It's a good thing. Terrible. But the way it lined up, it worked out for the project.
Yeah. Because you could do all the post stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as productions, I mean, I've been really slow this year. It looks on paper, it looks like an incredible year for me, having Fatman come out and Everyone Is Doing Great. And it has, I mean, like I said, incredibly blessed that everything has worked out the way it has when so many people are suffering. So that's a tough one for me to see,
Yeah.
And I also very, very little physical production from March to December for me.
What have you enjoyed, the most in terms of, given all the hats that you're wearing related to Everyone Is Doing Great? What really gets you jazzed up when you're on set? Like which hat?
So, wow, that's a tough question. I don't know that anybody's ever asked me that. I love both shooting and producing. For me, this one was a little more interesting on the shooting end, because I tend on the features, since prior to Lost on Purpose, I think 2010 was the last time I operated on a feature. I've got an incredible Steadicam operator, A camera operator, a guy by the name of Jess Haas. And I found some really great B camera operators along the way, like this guy, Mike Black, who did Small Town Crime with us in Utah. And I generally sit behind the monitors and consider myself the guardian of the image. And I'm on headset with my grip and electric teams and my camera teams and calling the shots and getting things moved around. on Everyone Is Doing Great, again, it was a tighter budget. So I said, there's no reason to bring in another camera operator. I'll hop on camera myself. And so I operated one of the cameras on that. And it was fun for me because in something like that, where it is a little looser, you know, it's scripted, but, you know, sometimes you will get improv. We cross covered everything. And that's something that I fight against on every feature film that I do. And cross coverage is where, in case any of your audience doesn't know, it's where you're shooting basically two over the shoulders at the same time on both characters, so that you can get their performances to match every single time. And if that's one thing, if you watch in that show, the coverage is great because it always matches. You always have the reaction from the person to the person they're talking to. So we're able to do that. So that was really important. So I hopped on a camera because I wanted to be in there. I wanted to move with the characters. I wanted to tell the story visually, handheld. And so, yeah, so that one I operated on. It was probably the first long form content that I operated on since about 2010.
It's hard to describe. Like when I watch all of these projects and now Everyone Is Doing Great, you know, the look of the film, it's hard to articulate. I mean, I've struggled with this a lot of times when Mike and I talk about it, but it's almost like a realism feel that you get watching it. The richness of the colors and the lighting and the depth, it's remarkable. But I would imagine it's like Mike would say, you know, if the directing is good, you shouldn't even notice it.
Exactly. And that's sort of what I strive for. Because I think even if you look at Fatman, the visuals are kind of understated, I think.
Yeah.
And the things that I were doing were more things in the background. For me, this one was a really big one from the storytelling point of view. I got more time in prep, so I could be a little more dialed in on what I wanted to do and how things tied to the characters, especially character arc wise. If you watch that movie, I tried to show good versus evil through lighting and lensing. So the way I did this is, if you look at Billy and you look at Mel and Marianne, the way they're lit is always very soft, very wrapping, a really classical sort of beauty light. So you always have that when you're in Mel's house. He's got a nice soft wrapping light. The kid, when he's in his house, nice soft wrapping light. So they're tied together through the lighting. With the lensing, I chose longer lenses and backed the camera off when I shot Billy and when I shot Walton, so that you felt more removed from them. So you felt a little back. When I shot Mel and Marianne and the elves and everybody, I would put the camera up really close and use a wider lens so you felt more connected to them. When I lit Walton, I lit him really hard from the side. If you look at the lighting, there was times on set when I looked at it, I go, I don't even really like what I'm lighting here, but I need to do it for the character. And when you look at it and you cut it all together in the end, there's a distinct visual difference between those characters. And I don't think you catch it upon the first watch, but if you were to go back and watch it, I think you'd start to put the pieces together and go, oh man, I do feel more removed from these characters. Camera is further back on a longer lens, and the lighting is harsher and it's cooler. And then you look at Billy and Mel and Marianne and the elves, and everybody's lit warmer and more wrapping, and you feel closer to them physically.
Yeah, so maybe my struggle to describe it is exactly reflects that it's working, because it's, again, I can't put my finger on it, but I know that I'm seeing something that's just like beautiful visually, you know, and
I love in Fatman, the storytelling is great because, and I mentioned this to the Nelms brothers, is how you don't throw in the stuff that we already know, because we already know the story of Santa. We don't need them. You know, if we saw Mel flying around in a sleigh, it would have been stupid. You know, we would have been like, this is dumb. I mean, this is a joke. But it was so straight, and all the actors played it so straight. There was no winking at the camera. And I love the sequence, the cut where Mel is getting ready to go out, grabs the list from Marianne. He's like, I don't need to go over it. I got it. And he comes back and you really can't tell it's, you know, he's already done.
Right.
I'm thinking, okay, what just happened? You know, you see him come in and put the gun away. And it's a great stuff. Just, you know, we when we first watched it, we were almost in kind of like a shock mode. And we did the podcast right after we watched it. We were like,
nice.
You know.
Yeah, I saw it that day.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it like 8 times now.
Nice.
To the point where I'm picking up like the Nelms convenience store and stuff like that. But
so I didn't make it into that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know.
I got no cameo. The closest thing I came is I'm a huge whiskey fan, and I do a lot of scotch, a lot of bourbons and ryes. So the day of the bar scene with Mel, where he goes in and he's talking to the bartender and he stops the guy from having the affair.
Right.
This still kills me. I should have got up and I should have went and I changed the orientation, but the prop that they had printed, the whiskey bottle actually was Derango whiskey. Like they had my name printed on it, and it's just facing away from camera when she pours it. Whoever put the spout in didn't turn it the right direction, so it faced camera, so you never see it. But I have the label at home. But it was one of these cool things where they're like, yeah, let's throw his name on the whiskey bottle. It'll be cool.
That's a good little Easter egg.
Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't sort of understand the DP role, just before we jumped on, I had sort of watched that demo reel that's on your IMDb page, and it's just so strong. Like, I would say for anybody that doesn't have a grasp, even a basic sense of what it is to look at that demo reel. It's just, those images are so striking. And I had to say, I kind of love the fact that the reel ends with Lafferty getting clipped in small town crime. Like, I don't know what it is with, he put him in the most, deranged scenarios. Like, the pilot for everyone is doing great. It's just insane in the first 10, 15 minutes of things that are going on.
Yeah, it's amazing. I actually told them, I was like, you guys got to think before you blow Lafferty's jaw off like this. Sorry, I don't want to give anything away. That's a movie that came out in 2016 or 2017.
That's okay, yeah.
Hopefully. But when you do, I was like, you guys did not think this through. They have a very rabid fan base. You're like, you might get death threats for doing this to James.
Right.
Yeah, his One Tree Hill people are like, you can't do that to James.
No, you can't do that to James. It hasn't happened. And I got to say, the One Tree Hill fans and the fans of James and Steven have been absolutely incredible. I mean, we would not have gotten the show made the way we did without them. So I gotta give a big thank you to all the EDG supporters. And
the casting is great. The acting is phenomenal. Like I said, that awesome mix of the tender moments and then just something completely insane, like Mike said, the pillow scene. It's just, I don't know who's more insane, Steven or James.
Oh, it's definitely James, because I mean, by about episode 7, he's so stoned all the time. You can just see his face just drawn, and he looks a mess,
that show is so funny. I mean, there's
really is.
I was revisiting it the other day, watching it with some other people, and there's just some things like, I love the stuff down in North Carolina. I love the redwoods. A lot of my good memories come from like the getaway things. Like the stuff we did in North Carolina was literally just Nawin, who's a producer on the show, myself, James, Steven, and I think we hired a local focus puller and a local sound guy. But we shot that scene outside the sorority house, and we shot all the B-roll that you see that cuts in against the fake set piece where you see Seth outside with I'm not going to give that away.
Right.
But all that stuff was just cut in around, and that was like basically a weekend trip.
Yeah. And again, what great timing for people to grab, because, we were talking about this last week, usually we got 2 movies every week coming out, we got to cover, okay, which one we're going to have to drop one of these, but we're so starved for content. This was like the perfect time for that to come out.
To have a show that's in the can to have 8 episodes of in the middle of a global pandemic again.
Exactly.
Like I would never wish this on anybody, but some things in the way the timing worked out were really beneficial.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Mike.
No, go.
No, I was just going to say the feedback that you're getting so far.
The feedback's been great so far. It's amazing. The text that I get, the messages I get online. It's funny how often somebody will send you a picture of your name on a screen, or, your production company name on a screen. It's fun because it feels like there's something different with a series than there is with a feature. I feel like even though I just did Fatman, which I'm super proud of, and like I got to work with Mel Gibson, Marianne Jean-Baptiste, Walton Goggins, it's a DP's dream.
Right.
And I'm hearing more about the TV series, I feel like. And I think it's because people don't have to think about how they find it. If they already have Hulu, they don't have to try to go out to a theater in a global pandemic. It's like, okay, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to invest, and I'm going to watch 8 episodes, So that's kind of cool.
Well, we've been, Fatman, we're shouting out from the rooftop. So
Yeah, that seems to come into every podcast somehow.
It
You know, we'll be talking about a movie and we'll say, remember how they did this in Fatman?
I like that. I think you guys should work that into your show on every episode.
Exactly.
Now, like executive producer, what's involved in that role? Because we see, you know, when the credits roll,
Yeah.
there's the Nelms, then there's you and Michelle, and you know, what do you do in that role?
So we put the show together. All of us kind of came together using our unique talents to bring the show together and make it real. And that's pretty much, I think, what an executive producer does. They come in, they've been around, they know the game, they know how to get certain things. And we made that show, and we made that show very inexpensively for the pilot episode. You know, that was self-funded. And so we were super responsible. I went out to Panasonic. Panasonic was incredible and supported me on the pilot with 2 Vericams. I had just shot I hadn't even shot that yet. I think that's how I got it. I went down to South by Southwest. It's odd because it all goes back to Small Town Crime. I was at South by Southwest with Small Town Crime, and I just scanned their program of the events that they had going on, and I found like one single cinematography event that they had going on at South by Southwest. So I went to it, and it was Panasonic showing off the Vericam, and it was the DP who shot not Soderbergh's movie. I'm not going to be able to think of the movie. It was the one with Bryan Cranston, and he's going to pick up the remains of his son. It's like
right, with Steve Carell was in it.
Yes, it's something flag. Is it Last Flag Flying or something?
Something like that. Yeah, I've seen it.
The DP of that was there, and he was talking about the Vericam and how he had used it in low light situations. They had a bridge like a mile away, and they were able to hit it with a light and get enough to read. And I was like, okay, this camera is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
So I went to Panasonic and I demoed it, and I really was impressed with the camera. So I was like, why do we not shoot the pilot on this? You know, we're going to be in some lower light situations. And that scene in the pilot where they're playing beer pong, that montage,
right?
I literally only have one. James's lights, there was these those I don't know what they call them, the bulbs that just hang in like a courtyard. I should know what these are called.
Right.
But you know, those kind of lights, like a rope light with the
almost like Christmas lights.
Right.
Not Christmas lights. They're like the rope lights. They're the bigger globes. So it was on 2 sides of this courtyard. And then in the other, I just stuck a single 1x1 light panel to back edge light James and the actress who played the lady he was into in the pilot.
Yes.
Right.
I think her name is Zion, Xion. So I put one light up, and we shot that entire scene with one light, you know, at night. And we had enough exposure with that camera at 5,000 ISO, and it looked beautiful.
I think it was similar with Steven and his mother. I think there's a scene where they're out in the backyard or something talking, and there's a similar.
Yeah, I like those lights. I work them in when I can.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice.
So, but that was cool. So that we had such a great experience on the pilot with those cameras. I sort of assumed that that's exactly what we would use on the next 7 episodes. But in the meantime, Panasonic came out with this camera called the EVA-1, which was like the baby brother to the Vericam. It's much more, you know, the Vericam is this big, the EVA-1 is like this big. And so Panasonic had liked the pilot of Everyone Is Doing Great so much that they asked me to shoot one of the 2 launch films that they were using to launch this entire new camera.
Nice.
So
wow.
I put together a film called Radio 88 with another producing partner and director, Kim Noonan. And we went out and we shot this thing. And I was just so happy with the way it looked that I was like, all right, I own 2 of these. Let's just shoot the next 7 episodes on these 2 cameras. And that's what we did. So we shot the pilot. It's weird. We took like a step. If you're looking at the highest end of the Panasonic spectrum as cameras, we shot the pilot on the highest end, and then we went a step down for the rest of the series. But I don't think there's any discernible loss in quality. I think the overall look of the Panasonic cameras are beautiful.
It really
I'm
does look
amazed
amazing.
there was that much time between, because it's so consistent. It's really good stuff.
So when do we?
James and Steven just don't age. I mean, they look exactly the same age from the pilot.
They do.
Oh my God.
It's amazing. I mean, I sent him a couple of pictures of Lafferty when he was on One Tree Hill because he hadn't seen it, and I said he looks like a little kid. You know, it's amazing.
It must be a tremendous burden to be that good looking.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. We wouldn't know. We wouldn't know. So when do we find out if we're getting season 2 if everyone is doing great?
It's a good question. I'm pretty sure that a season 2 will happen. I just don't know when. Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be the tricky thing, because you binge it, you watch all 8 episodes, you want more, and then it seems like forever, you know?
And that's the thing. I think we'd all like to get back at it sooner than later, because you don't want a giant gap between people watching season 1 and season 2. And I think the show is doing well from what it looks like to me on the outside, you know, just scanning the internet and waiting for people to get back to me. And yeah, a lot of people are watching it. And it's funny because I can see, came out on Wednesday and it took till about Saturday for a lot of people to start hitting me up about being the park ranger. So I can sort of see like how many episodes people are watching, you know, based on that.
Where they're at. Right. That's funny. Well, you got two new fans here of the show. So we're
hoping to get Lafferty in for the, you know, the hat trick.
You should. He's amazing. I'll put a word in.
All right.
That'd be great. That'd be great. We almost said that at the top. I was going to say, no offense, Johnny, but Mike, we're this close to nailing James Lafferty on the show. We're going through the whole Nelms, you know, realm.
You
Universe.
should see if you get him and Steven together. They're a good time.
Oh my God. They must be a blast. The scene, I mean, so many of it, but I don't know how you keep a straight face on that set. I would just be losing it.
I was thinking about it the other day. There was where I usually don't break and I usually don't ruin a take, but I remember distinctly ruining the end of a take. And it's when Deborah Baker Jr., who plays the woman in the casting, running the camera in the casting.
Oh, she's great.
Is on the couch with them at the end of episode 2. I lost it. Like I literally blew a take because I just lost it.
When she puts her arms on their hands on their heads.
So funny.
And they're kind of jealous of each other, you know?
And they're trying to figure out who had relations with her the night before.
And she's another one. You jump back. She had a big role in their movie Night of the Dog. So she goes that far back.
Oh,
and then in Small Town, or not Small Town Crime, in Lost on Purpose, she plays Tommy Howell's receptionist at the store where he operates out of. Yeah.
Right.
That's why. Is the woman that plays the mediator, which is another insane,
she's from Waffle Street.
She's from Waffle Street. I knew. Yeah. I knew that was another connection.
Yeah. And then there's an actor who I really love, who I did a movie with in 2008 by the name of Josh Adele, a movie called Small Town Crime, Fuzz Track City, which is a fantastic little tiny indie movie, but it's a detective story and it's great. But Josh Adele played a big role in that, and then we brought him in to do he was the yogurt guy in Lost on Purpose, who she partners with.
Right.
Yeah.
And he plays the accountant, and everyone is doing great.
Wild.
It's so incestuous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I can do this all day. It's like the same people woven back and forth, but they're all, you know, and I think it's come up in a lot of interviews, but we're like one film family, you know,
so we
gather up the people we like and we keep bringing them with us onto the next project.
You know, like you said, the shorthand that comes along with that, there's a high degree of trust. And so I can imagine that's just a wonderful benefit.
Oh yeah.
That kind of
and we figure, since you got Danny Glover and Waffle Street and then Mel and Fatman, you guys, Donner should call you about, you know,
the next Lethal Weapon.
I think we're all thinking the same thing there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There we go.
Although I feel like, having done movies with both of them, I can say that I pretty much shot Lethal Weapon 5, right?
That's true.
Right.
That's right. True. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and we, like I said, we're loving this show. We hope we don't have to wait too long for season two. So what, do you have a full day of shooting now when you're off the Zoom here, or what's?
So I'm off for the day, but I'm going to take a look at some editing, you know.
Oh, cool.
Of that. And then, that's about it. I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm here for another week or so, and I get to go home and see my wife, who I haven't seen in about 3 weeks, which grand scheme is not bad. I mean, Fatman, I was gone for over 4 months, I think.
Right.
Imagine if you got stuck in Canada. That would have been awful.
Well, I keep thinking about that. I think eventually the way it works is they have to let you back into your country.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the idea that because you don't know. I mean, I've never been in a global pandemic. I don't think you guys have either.
No.
Unless there's one I didn't know about.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where I was like, I gotta get home. You know, I can't be. I've been here since December 9th. You know, I would love to see my wife and my nephews, and
Yeah.
So
Itching to get back. Well, listen, let us know. I'll send you I'll send you my address so we can get our hands on a couple of those small town crime shirts that you got.
of course,
I gotta have one of those.
Ash needs to do another run of these because again, he drew these. I mean, they're his original artwork. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
That's awesome. We talked about.
Nice.
I mean, I went on about it at the start of that episode with them because my first car was a '74 Chevy Nova. So we went on talking about this whole story behind the Nova, which was mind blowing because that's a character in and of itself in that film.
Well, and the same thing with Walton's car in
yes.
Yeah, they really like the cars, and they always find like it's funny being involved with them in the beginning in pre-production and listening to them talk to whoever is doing the transportation and the automobiles on a show. They're very specific.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, because with that they needed a car that matched the police car toy,
right,
and vice versa, and that's what they did. Yeah, so I can't.
It reminds me of a car. Have you ever seen the movie The Car?
I have not seen the movie The Car.
Oh, all right. I'm hawking that movie. It's from the 70s.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
It was like a precursor to Christine.
Okay.
You know, killer car. So, anyways.
Interesting.
And what we noticed too, because when we saw Ash in the Volks, you know, the Volkswagen, he talked about how, you know, I wrote that blog and I called, what is it? It's Ribs to Riches.
From Ribs to Riches, yeah.
Where I outlined the Nelms career.
Nice.
And I said I was gonna call it because Eshom got into the car accident. Instead of fixing his car, he went out and bought a camera. Yep. So I was gonna call the article From Cash to Crash, or From Crash to Cash.
That's funny. You've seen that band, right? Because it's all over Lost on Purpose.
Oh yeah. He talked about it I think that's how we got into the Nova with small town crime, and then
it's become iconic cars. Which, you know, you saw I put that out on our Instagram last night. Seeing that I was like, oh my god, Andy slinging coke. I'm like,
we do need to clarify that Eshom does not sling coke.
No, that's right.
Everyone is doing great because
exactly.
And I was like, he wraps it up in storyboards and delivers it. People are gonna be like,
exactly. We do not, seeing what happened to Lafferty at the end of Small Town Crime, we don't need to get on the bad side of those guys.
Yeah. So disclaimer: Eshom is not a coke dealer in real life.
Coke dealer, no.
Put that out there. We'll reiterate that in the intro to this episode.
Right. I know you might not know this either, but I'm not really a park ranger.
That's new. We learn something new every.
I really sold those two lines.
Listen, it's never too late to switch careers. Just ask us.
I also tried to name my own character, but it got bonged over clearance issues. I was going to name my park ranger Squirrel McMasterson. Felt like that was the right name for that character.
That's great. So listen, when there's less mystery surrounding some of these other projects, we'd like to extend an open invitation for you to come back and talk about it. You know, we're looking to do the same with the Nelms, so
nice.
we'd be grateful.
We'll get the whole gang together.
I was going to say that'd be great.
Like 18 windows open at the same time.
That'd be great.
That'd be amazing. Like I said, we're all like a film family, so I don't think that's too difficult.
Well, you guys are doing great work. We're huge fans. So again, we appreciate you giving us some time, especially on a Saturday morning. So it's great
talking to you guys.
It's great talking to you too, Johnny. Yeah, take care and continued success. We look forward to talking to you again, and we'll keep following you, of course.
Nice. Thanks, guys.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.